The plain is silent before moonrise, blue ice stretches to every horizon, nothing moves across it, no wind lifts the frost. No animal calls from the dark, the ground looks dead, sealed under glass. Then the moon appears. It is small, close, and amber. Its edge rises over the frozen horizon like a warm coal. For several minutes, nothing changes. Then, a thin golden line opens beneath the ice, another follows it, then another. Across the plain, cracks begin to glow. They do not break the surface, they breathe under it. The moon is pulling heat upward. Far below the ice, warm fluids respond to its gravity. They rise through stone channels and press against the frozen crust. The first vents open as faint gold threads. Around them, frost softens. A few dark shapes stir beneath the snow. Tiny frost herds emerge slowly, one body at a time. Their legs are short. Their bodies are wrapped in pale insulating fibers. They move carefully, as if every step must be saved. For most of the day, they remain buried in cold hollows. Only during moonrise can they feed. The golden cracks widen, warm vapor seeps upward. Ice crystals loosen from the ground and drift like dust. The herds gather close to the glowing lines. They lower their heads and graze on soft vent, moss that appears only during these brief hours. The moss is not green, it is amber, almost translucent, fed by heat instead of sunlight. The frost herds feed. The plain begins to move again. Small burrowing animals push through softened ice. Wingless pollinators crawl from mineral shells. Thread-like plants uncurl from cracks that were invisible minutes before. The frozen world does not wake all at once. It opens in rings around warmth. Then the shelter creatures rise at first. They look like collapsed sheets of glass lying under the snow. Their bodies are broad, thin, and nearly transparent. When the moon climbs higher, warm vapor passes through their tissues. They inflate slowly. A curved back lifts from the ice. Long ribs of living cartilage unfold. The shelter creature opens like a tent made of clear skin. Under it, the air becomes still. The frost herds step inside. Their breath gathers in small clouds. Above them, the shelter creature's translucent body catches moonlight and holds it, turning amber at the edges and blue at the center. It is not a predator. It does not chase. It does not feed on the herds. It waits over them. The shelter creature lives from heat, minerals, and the waste of the animals beneath it. The herds bring movement. Their hooves loosen frost. Their dung feeds vent. Moss. Their breath warms the inner air. In return, the shelter holds back the killing cold. This is the nightly bargain of the plain. As more vents open, more shelters rise. From above, the frozen surface becomes a network of glowing veins. Each vein gathers life. Small herds move from one warm crack to another. The oldest animals know the sequence. They arrive before the vents fully open. The young follow the heat after it appears. Those that arrive late must stand at the edge, where the shelter is thin and the ground begins to freeze again. Timing is survival here. The moon does not stay close for long. Its orbit carries it fast across the night sky. At its highest point, the plain is alive. Gold light shines through cracks in blue ice. Transparent shelters arch over hundreds of tiny animals. Steam rises in slow columns. The air fills with soft feeding sounds, clicking hooves and the low flexing of living membranes. Inside the shelters, the frost herds feed quickly. They do not waste motion. Each mouthful matters. Their stomachs are built to store heat as much as food. Mineral moss ferments inside them, releasing warmth through the long cold day. Beside them, smaller creatures gather what falls. Needle-mouthed grazers feed on loosened moss fibers. Flat, backed scavengers drink condensed droplets from the shelter skin. Tiny pale insects climb the inside surface and collect salts left behind by vapor. Nothing here wastes warmth, even the shadows are used. At the center of the largest shelter, a herd mother lowers herself beside a vent. Newborn presses against her side. It is too small to survive a full day's freeze alone. The shelter senses the weak body heat, its inner membrane contracts slightly, lowering closer over the calf. Warm droplets form above it and fall onto its fur. The calf trembles, then steadies. Moon is not nursing it directly. The shelter is not nursing it alone. The whole system is. Moon gravity lifts the heat, heat wakes the vents, vents wake the shelter. Shelter protects the herd feeds the moss. The moss returns when the next moonrise comes. For a few hours, the frozen plain becomes a nursery. Beyond the warm network, darkness remains absolute. Animals that stray too far slow almost immediately. Ice forms along their feet, their breath turns heavy. Most return before the frost seals around them, some do not. By midnight, distant shapes appear at the edge of the light. Tall cold walkers move between the shadows. They do not enter the shelters. The warm membranes confuse their senses. They wait outside, listening for panic. The shelter creatures respond by dimming their transparent skin clouds over, scattering moonlight into a soft blur. The herds freeze in place, no animal calls, no hoof clicks. Soundly, the vents continue breathing. A young frost herd strays near the shelter edge. A cold walker lunges from the dark. The shelter drops one side of its body like a curtain. The attack strikes membrane instead of flesh. The predator recoils from the heat. For a moment, the shelter glows brighter where it was touched, then it opens again. The herd moves inward. Protection here is slow, but exact. The night continues. At the widest vent field, several shelters overlap. Their edges meet but do not fuse. Between them, small corridors of warm air form. The herds use these corridors to move safely between feeding patches. Pollinators travel with them, dusting vent, flowers that bloom only once each night. The flowers close as soon as the moon begins to fall. Their seeds harden before dawn. If they remain soft after moonset, they die. Every life cycle here is tied to the moon's brief mercy. The first sign of ending is not darkness, it is silence, under the ice. The golden cracks pulse more slowly, vapor thins, the shelter. Creatures begin to sag, their ribs fold inward, one by one. Frost herds lift their heads, they know the warmth is leaving. Feeding stops. Mothers gather young, burrowers retreat into heated cavities below the moss. Insects seal themselves inside mineral shells. The shelters lower gently, guiding the last animals toward the safest ground hollows. Moon sinks toward the far horizon. Its amber face grows smaller, gold fades from the cracks. Blue returns. The final vent exhales once, then closes under ice. The largest shelter creature settles over the herd like a transparent blanket. Its body no longer holds warmth, but it slows the first bite of freezing wind. Under it, the animals curl together. Their bodies share the heat stored during the moonlit hours. Outside, the plain hardens again, the glowing network disappears. The herds become hidden mounds under frost. The shelter creatures collapse flat across the ice, invisible except for faint outlines beneath snow. By dawn, the world looks empty. Only shallow arcs in the frost reveal where living tents had stood. Only golden stains under the ice show where vents had breathed. Above the horizon, the warm moon is gone. The cold star rises. For the long day, nothing will move, but beneath the frozen plain, heat is sinking back into the deep channels. Inside buried bodies, warmth is being spent slowly. Inside sealed seeds, the next bloom waits, and somewhere beyond the dark curve of the planet, the small warm moon is already returning. When it rises again, the dead blue plain will open. The cracks will glow, the shelters will lift, the herds will gather, and for a few brief hours, the frozen world will remember how to be alive.